There is a movement epidemic. On the one hand, less than half of Americans get the physical activity they need to help reduce and prevent chronic diseases. One downstream implication is the immense cost on the healthcare system, $117 billion. Not to mention the pathways to cardiovascular disease, stroke, and type 2 diabetes. On the other hand, why, against the backdrop of a largely sedentary society, are orthopedic surgeries on the rise? Incomplete range of motion reflects a rather insidious and often overlooked symptom. What do we mean? Surely, that's not me. Well, let's do a quick screen. You'll need a partner for this. First, stand tall with your feet together and arms hanging comfortably at your side. Next, make a fist so your fingers are around your thumbs. And finally, in a fluid motion, reach your right fist over your head and down your back as far as possible, while simultaneously reaching your left fist up your back as far as possible. Look at your partner. Were they able to get their fists within about a hand and a half of each other, or were they separated by a greater distance? How many people experienced pain that wasn't present before? That's an instance of pain. Pain is a signal from the nervous system that your body has been stressed beyond its comfort zone. Listening to pain is contextual and complex. For instance, the nervous system, acting as the controller of the body, will create movement compensations to minimize pain and prioritize movement completion. Continuing to ignore pain signals, trying to make visible the underlying poor movement patterns, can lead not only to excessive wear and tear on your body, but can also lead to injury. In other words, we need to refocus our emphasis from movement completion to the quality of how we complete different movements. First move well, then move often. I'll open Tabitha's cage and she'll take off. This line is from Glennon Doyle's book, Untamed. Tabitha is a cheetah. Do you think Tabitha has to warm up, stretch, or foam roll before dashing from 0 to 60? No. At any time, Tabitha has her full physical capabilities and a full range of motion accessible to her. Now, we're not cheetahs, we're human beings. But imagine a pain free future where you effortlessly throw on a shirt, put on a bra with ease, or are safely and confidently able to hoist a grandchild over your head. Good news. Many of us were able to perform these shoulder movements and well without even thinking. But somewhere between childhood to adulthood, we lost this mobility, but continued to complete movements, blind to our compensations and unaware of the increased stress placed on our joints. Shifting our attention to how we move and the quality of that movement represents a sustainable path to this future. It's a means for us to become better attuned to our movement, like Tabitha freed from her cage, sprinting down the savannah at full speed. But first, if you are experiencing pain, this is an opportune time to see a human movement professional, such as a doctor of physical therapy. We want you all to better see and play with incomplete ranges of motion. This is a way to make visible the hidden compensations and to begin to remedy them. For instance, a dead hang is a great way to decompress and stretch your spine and upper back. While shoulder mobility represents a fundamental movement for screening range of motion in the upper body, our next movement, the deep squat, showcases the importance of lower extremity range of motion.
Now, let's look at the lower extremities here and think about the last time you were effortlessly and comfortably able to sit in a deep squat position. And I don't mean sitting in a chair. I mean heels flat on the ground, ass all the way to the ground. I know we think of the squat as an exercise, but long before it was an exercise, the squat was a movement. In fact, the squat is a developmental milestone that we see in infants and toddlers, and they demonstrate this ability to complete that squat with ease. Sometime from childhood to adulthood, many of us lose this ability to safely and sustainably perform this basic functional movement. In fact, the squat reflects the most biomechanically efficient way to pick something up off the ground, from a pen to picking up a suitcase in the store and placing it in the overhead bin, even if you wanted to play with leaves with your grandchildren. Now, let me ask you, how many people have experienced an instance of back pain? One of the most common compensations of limitations in range of motion to the hip and knee is flexion and extension at the back. So incomplete range of motion at the hips and knees can lead to increased stress at the back and ultimately instances of low back pain. And if we let that to linger on, it can become injurious. So it is important to look at ankle, knee, and hip range of motion, and we encourage you to do so with the deep squat. This can happen with a little effort and daily commitment. We can relearn this fundamental movement. We have been participating in a 30-day squat mobility challenge, and it incorporates a number of exercises, and we encourage you to follow along. And so whether you're training to participate in athletic endeavors, or you're more motivated to participate with your grandchildren, ultimately the goal is to put more quality into our years of life, minimize the risk of injury by developing a better awareness of movement and being able to experiment with our movement, particularly at the incomplete range of motion phase. Once we get to the incidence of injury and injurious phase, we'd recommend seeing a medical professional to screen things, movement professional, but learning to listen to the pain and appreciating movement will not only offer insight into the knowledge of ourselves, but it'll also help us to develop confidence and embark in our own movement journey. No one owns movement. And so first we can learn to move well, and then we can move often.